reviewing what the FAA said, what the CDA said, what the three-letter agency said, and what's happened since. And you can see some real connections here. And it is, and all the dire threats, and the FAA saying if we don't have the power to regulate the hobby, then the risk will be unacceptable, blah, 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 blah. And as I say, I put those figures up. Since 2015, what is it? Nearly 2,000 people have died in manned aviation incidents in the USA, nobody by drones, 200,000 on the road, 200,000 as a result of firearms things. And they've lost $70 billion to ransomware attacks. Why are they even considering this to be a risk when they've got all these other things going on that are not being addressed? It's like, I'm doing a video on it anyway. I'm going to take snippets out of that video and just bring them forward in time and say, the FAA made these claims. They were either lying or incompetent. And neither of those is acceptable. And an organization that either lies or has no competence should not be involved in regulating a hobby.
I find it funny when you look at risk as well and the actual impacts of things. And I think the US, I think there's I think called Rossborough in the UK have do bits, but I've not found the UK very good for stats. But in the US, there has been good stats in the past on actual injuries, day-to-day injuries, TVs falling on people. These are fatal injuries from use of everyday power tools, especially staple guns. It's worth having a look at all that. The numbers when you start talking about drones and you look at the number of people that are injured or fatally killed by.
You can't be anything but fatally killed. If you're killed, it is fatal.
Well, exactly, yes. The moment I said that, I thought that's a stupid thing to say, and I should have known Bruce even more so.
Yes.
You're not fatally killed if they bring you back alive again, though, are you?
Yeah, we are alive now.
I just put in accident rates by category, and isn't it interesting that my searches, every single one's it's by Airbus or Sky Library or whatever. It didn't come up with even the National Safety, Home and Community Safety's airplane crashes injury facts. Isn't it funny how it drives everything towards, and thank goodness, I suppose it drives everything towards aviation. I just wanted to see if I could look up and do some. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I just started because we were talking before we started, and it was interesting, so I just hit go, as I often do. It's gone past 11 o'clock, so I've managed to stay on for that mystery minute. Last week, it was a phase of power went down. It happened to be the phase that was connected to the town's internet. So that's why
you weren't unfazed by that.
I was unfazed, exactly, and the cell towers as well. My computer's still on the home screen. Yeah. What's happened this week? A great deal. DJI actually released a LiDAR today, a new LiDAR, which people will get very excited about and jump up and down. And no doubt.
Did you see the Philippines have introduced pay to fly? That's what I want to remember. The Philippines have introduced pay to fly. Yes,
no,
you have to pay.
I haven't.
Recreational users get a discount. Commercial users pay the full rate, and it's per hour.
Per hour, per whole hour unit.
In Cebu City in the Philippines.
What platform are they using to gather that data? And because they don't have RID, do they?
No, I think you have to apply in advance and pay, and you get a permit to fly. So if you're caught without your valid permit, then you'll probably get fined or whatever. I don't know, shot, something like that.
Gosh,
it is the Philippines.
So, Recovery Drone saying the problem with the clouds at Biodrone at Best Buy, and that exactly happened this week. That chap that had a flyaway across a stadium.
The thing that's interesting is they treat it like it was a major thing. If it was a DJI Mini, were people endangered by that? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that as well. The consequences or the actions being taken against the fellow who allegedly bought the thing the day before are rather grim. Okay, it was foolish to go and fly in the park, but obviously he was trying to fly over the stadium. I think we can put the idea that he was just seeing how far it would go, and it RTL'd as well, which was lucky. So all was good. But I was also surprised is that people are saying, "Oh wow, so you can track those DJI things even without RID." I mean, how does that work? It's like, oh come on, people! Didn't you notice this has been happening, for years? Oh, it was a national televised game. Oh, did he $3,500? I hadn't seen that. I hadn't got far.
So
Oh,
if it was a
that's
televised
Sky
game,
News,
it was
sorry.
probably more about the danger to the rights holder than the danger to the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of money that they lost. Yeah, exactly. There, we'll go to that view so I can slice off Ian's head. That's what I wanted to do. That worked really nicely. Oh dear. So Ian kindly posted me the ROSPA accident rates. Let's put this up together and look at this together. Oh, you've gone quiet, I think, there, Ian.
Alas, I couldn't see a page where they've got the reports on this. They'll put it out somewhere, but I just thought as a headline figure, at least you've got that.
Yes, that one there, 16,000 accidental causes.
So these will be stuff: trampolines in back gardens, power tools, all that kind of malarkey.
Yeah.
What is that? Someone is stabbed in London every 20 minutes. If I was that guy, I'd hide.
God. Yeah, I mean, it does seem strange. Does anyone in the chat know how that chap's being treated in the States? What his fine is? And that's Skydio X10. Meh. That's all I'll say. Meh. Public flogging is popular in that part of the world. Absolutely. This week all I wanted to say was that we had one day last week between last week's Ill-Fated show and this, where every single story that went out in the daily email was about delivery drones, and there's a couple there today. Brandon's on time for that. I'll do, Brandon. Delivery drones, and it just surprises me that A, we're not seeing more of them, and B, oh God, did you see the one I posted today? The one lot got an award. Skyports, they do a lot, and it's from Oban Airport. Oban Airport's quite dear to me. I've flown into that, and it's a fantastic place to fly into. They flew from the end of the runway at Oban to a school 1.5 kilometers away that you could have walked to up the beach with a school dinner, and they won an award for that. It's like, what? It's like, how is that a use case? And Oban Council, whatever they're called, on the Argyll and Bute, are saying that delivering school meals is a good use case for delivery drones. It's like, what? One meal at a
smoking?
Time. Exactly. What are they smoking? Yeah,
have you noticed also there's a bit of a boost in stories of FPV drone companies making munitions now, making drones specifically for military use, and looks like I suspect there'll be a bit of pivoting going on. Excuse all the banging, they're doing some renovations here. I bet there'll be some pivoting going on with these latest conflicts and people seeing how the drones are being used in these contexts, and I wonder how that's going to push back on the hobby.
When Ukraine is claiming that it's making its own speed controllers now, and is starting on motors. So if they go down that route, the peace dividend for them, when they eventually do win, will be quite extraordinary, because there are, I should say, plans afoot to have a blue type UAS list in the UK and Europe, and Ukraine will be in the EU. And they will be making the parts, and they will have a market they can sell to right on their doorstep.
I don't understand. How can a motor made in China be a security threat? I mean, you can't put anything in a motor, can you? I mean, it's just metal and wire and bearings. I mean, yeah, it's only the electronics, and even then, I think it's all very sus. It's just a reason excuse.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's all what?
It's just I shouldn't have spoken over Bruce then. Sorry. I was saying it's all about trade. It's the thing about China is most of it is just it's a trade war, really, and it's always that way.
Sure, yeah, but it's going to give people a heck of an advantage if they are making it all, and it'll be good as well. And we know that it'll be good because it'll be battle
expensive.
It will be expensive.
So that's not necessarily good, especially when you look at what's happening at the moment. It's a war of attrition. He who has the most drones wins.
Yeah. Well, there's that other incident that's kicked off, and that has shown us things have changed. As now, I don't know quite how to put it, but I there's no big air force involved in that one either, and that's been rather successful, if not horrific. Certainly the spotlight is being put on the small industry now, sadly. And I'm amazed people have taken this long to wake up. I absolutely am. I don't know. Well, do I dance around the subject? Otherwise, we'd just be instantly pulled off. Otherwise, wouldn't we? But
well, no, it's interesting. I've noticed that.
Thoughts?
Well, I'm going to do a video that involves some. I've been looking, and all the major news outlets with some of the most horrific footage, including Al Jazeera, which has got unfiltered footage. They're all monetized. YouTube doesn't seem to give a damn for some reason.
Yeah. I'm just sending you a link, Carl, if you'd like to join us and get you started. Because I think that will be about Scotland and that delivery. I think that was quite a thing. Yeah, there's no doubt it is being monetized. It is a TV-based war. Autel MTV. Why did MTV mention Autel? I wonder. It's almost made for TV. The things that are happening. Yeah, it's shocking.
Kind of makes you ashamed to be a member of the human race, though, doesn't it? When you see what people are doing.
Yeah.
There's no rights.
Yeah.
There's no justification on either side for what's being done, and it's just God. It makes you, and it's the whole world seems to be headed down this path because now you've got different people lining up behind their player of choice. You know, like we've got in Ukraine, you've got one side supporting the Russians and one side supporting Ukrainians, and it's starting to happen in the Middle East, around that area as well, and things are going downhill pretty quickly. I think, they did a study way back when they found that if you have a population of rats, once they reach a certain level, they start attacking each other and killing each other because it's nature's way of restoring a balance. I wonder if we haven't overpopulated the planet. Bad things are about to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I hope not. MTV saying also they claim they are Chinese. They are. They are basically MTV. They are they dance around the subject somewhat, but they are.
And the Russians have got a long distance FPV drone. They use a flying repeater station. So it's probably analog, and they've got a drone that they just hover, which repeats the RC and the video. And they reckon they're getting 6 kilometers range out of an FPV drone fitted with a RPG. And I'm thinking, yeah, maybe not.
That's pretty poor performance. I daren't say too much about Russia because there's been one lot of people that have completely ripped off the site for years, and I like word for word. They just put it into Russian and claim it as their own over there. And ages ago,
imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Gary, you should thank them.
I said it'd be awfully nice if you didn't do that, and they said niet. They just kept going. It's years ago that started. So yeah, no. I wonder what they voice over us on their copy of this. No doubt they wrote this off as well. But yeah, they've definitely got they've got a train line directly to China, haven't they? Or it goes to Europe as well. But they've definitely got a strong link to parts. It's all just horrible, isn't it? All of that is horrible, basically. I know what, I've just remembered something else. Here we go. Let's bring this up. If you are in the UK, but it pretty well applies everywhere. There was a safety notice, I'll put this in the news later, issued by the Civil Aviation Authority yesterday. And this basically tells us in this bit here that the CAA has become aware through mandatory occurrence reporting MORs of discrepancies between the accurate airspace restrictions published via the Aeronautical Information Publication, AIP, and how manufacturers display airspace information on their systems. Looking at you, DJI. So the CAA have worked out that DJI is putting up the wrong stuff. We've been saying this for years. If it's there on your screen, it should be accurate, and it should only come. And this actually also applies to UTMs and stuff like that. If anyone's putting up any aeronautical information, it should only be coming from that country's or that state's official source.
Is there any legal liability involved? They've probably got disclaimers that says use at your own risk, but surely there must be some obligation in law if you're providing information or you're restricting the operation of something on the basis of information you provide. You must be somehow culpable in the event of something going wrong.
Yeah, well, this is making it culpable for the operator now. They've issued this safety notice, which means if you are found to be operating in controlled airspace or whatever, then you're in trouble. We've told you so. The safety notice is putting all drone flyers, all aircraft flyers, on a warning. Hey, you get it wrong now, we're definitely coming after you. You can't say, but my app said I could fly.
But it's silly, isn't it? Because how many people with drones are going to read that safety notice?
None.
The thing that
any.
concerns me about this is, I think really, if when you got this issue, you should be making an app that's simple for others to integrate with the API and so on, so that DJI or any other app could just literally just call that up and it'd be there and it'd be integrated within the app. This idea of switching, that's not safe in itself, because you know, I'd genuinely be worried if I had one app up and I'm switching to another, because you're leaving that one, you know, idle in the background. Is there going to be a problem switching between? Is you can have a crash or something. Not so much thinking of the drone then, but the app's crashing and that. You know, it's not always, especially when you do, you know, software updates and you've updated to the next version of Android or iOS. Things don't always function right. And this whole thing of trying to juggle more than one app at once itself's a bit fraught for inviting a problem as you're there, you know, messing about with your apps. There needs to be thought about how do we make it easy and how can it integrate. And the thing that's just daft with it all is the fact that, you know, the information's coming from Altitude Angel, which is the correct information, but for some reason, I think in the UK it does. But the point being that for some reason, guys, I don't know, we chatted about this with Richard when he was on the show, but it seems to be like DJI just take it in chunks every so often and put it up, and there's lag behind, and they probably do their own things with it as well. But really, if DJI have got that relationship, they're better off just scraping it straight out, spewing it straight out, and then there wouldn't be a problem. So I'm just bemused by it, just from a software design viewpoint of DJI, of thinking, why are we making this thing harder than it needs to be? You know, we could just be, you know, getting this information, just spewing it straight out. So the whole thing puzzles me a bit. But I think those kind of discussions with the manufacturers are saying, look, we all know this is an issue. Can't we just, you know, do something about it, get heads together, and let's just make some open, clear standard where anyone can grab the data, display it, and then the whole problem goes away overnight.
In New Zealand, DJI don't even bother relating it to our local regulations. Local regulations say no flying within 4 kilometres of a listed airfield or a helipad. So they know where they all are, but they put a 900-metre circle around. Why don't you make it 4K if you want to do that? I mean, so you can still break the law, but you just can't break it, you know, closer than 900 meters. I mean, why do they even bother if they're going to provide inaccurate reference material, or it's just interpretation of it? Our rules haven't changed for 8 years, and yet it's still wrong on the DJI stuff.
And I also think with this, that someone needs to there needs to be an authority responsibility. And really, this should come down to the CAA or the police. I think more the CAA that. Because even when you look at data, things aren't always bob on accurate. You know, when teams like, take your football teams, they go up and down from the Premiership. Some little club that comes up, you know, because they weren't in the Premiership before, their stadium doesn't end up getting marked as, well, you shouldn't be flying around here. That kind of thing, which again, I don't think is Altitude Angel's fault. I think a lot of that sat with DJI again. But it just strikes me if that kind of thing, if that concerns you don't want it happening, then why isn't somebody actually given that as part of their job description of make sure that these, you know, once you go to become, you know, in the UK be Premiership, and in the US you be, you know, NFL team or whatever, saying when you're at this stage, your ground's going to be considered a lot more of a target, just more from the fact of obviously you got people, you don't want people flying over when you got the matches on. You know, we think most of that is down to just worried about streaming, but we know it's going to disrupt the match. But you also have to consider, although it's very, very unlikely, as we discussed numerous times, but, you know, again, if you were talking about terrorism and your other threats, you know, you're more likely to go to your bigger sporting events than the smaller one. So the very fact that there isn't somebody that's got that as their kind of job to make sure it's all right, it kind of strikes me as an oversight. And especially when you are always banging on about safety, that How can you do that and at the same time glaringly know this is wrong and no one's taking ownership of it and no one actually step up and say, you know what, we're going to make it our job to make sure this is right? Because it's a small task. You only have to do it, especially with the sport and things. It'd be once a year. It's something that takes somebody, an hour to sort out. Why is it such a big deal?
And don't they do TFRs in the US? Aren't they? Doesn't DJI, some of those appear on the DJI system? So they are updating.
Yeah, I think with the US it's easier because it's a franchise system. So I don't think you have these things where teams go up and down. It'll be pretty much set that you're always the teams and you do it once. But obviously in Europe where we have teams that go up and down, it's a bit different. You're moving around.
And speaking of going up and down in Europe, the Mavic 4 the Mini 4 is limited to 120 meters, whether you want it or not.
Didn't they undo that? I thought they.
As far as I'm aware, it's still in place for C0 or something.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I used to know that the postal address that people did the charts were responsible for it in the UK, and I've completely forgotten. It's that long. Since I had to think about it, but there is somebody in an office who is responsible for. But you're right, they haven't progressed to having a digital means to make sure that everything's okay and hunky dory. PPL pilots would have a thing called Sky Demon, which is a moving map, and that needs to be up to date. There's all sorts of services that need that. Maybe it is out there, and I'm not aware of it. Mitchell saying it's pretty easy to bypass TV, even with DJI Neo models. Yeah, can't DJI stuff be unlocked? Well, it's not really a matter of. It's not really a matter of unlocking all these things that we're talking about. It's a matter of them being correctly displayed in the first place. Personally, I think I don't think any manufacturer should be able to stop you flying in the areas. That's up to you to know what the airspace, and that's what the CAA is saying. It's up to you to know what the airspace is. It's for you to make that decision or talk to the right person. I think
it's kind of good though to have some of the stuff there out of the box. Especially for I don't believe most of the time when we got pilots saying I didn't know I was breaking the rules. Especially when you've been flying for a while or you're going to buy a more expensive drone. But it is an excuse at the minute. So I think it's kind of good. I think we should have had a height limit a long time ago. But I do think with that, you should be able to do unlocks for commercial users. Because there are the trouble is with any of the laws, there are valid exceptions. You might have an OSC and so on. So there are cases where you've got to say, well, this restriction actually stopping me doing my job and I can do it legally. But at the same time, the amount of freedom there's been with drones, and this is the frustration that the likes of Brendan would have had in the past, is you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And you've got, for the regulators, you've got to be seen to be putting restrictions in. Otherwise, it always comes back on you that drone, every person that misuses a drone is then used against you. Well, at least if you put a number of safeguards in, you can say, yeah, but look, we've done all this. There's only so far we can go.
So why most of the drone sightings near airports seem to be DJIs when they shouldn't be there? They shouldn't be able to be there, because if you could put a bypass mechanism and just flick off an email or something, then it's not a hurdle. It's just a small bump in the road and people get around it.
Yeah, but having said that, most of if you notice, and going back to the football grounds as we mentioned earlier, when the people have done that, they've actually got them. So they have used Aeroscope, or they've gone to DJI, and DJI have said so and so was there at this time. They have got them in the end. I think that's part of the problem, and this is again when vested interests have been trying to malign drones and over egg the safety thing. Is because I noticed there was one in the US where they'd used Aeroscope around airports, and they'd used these figures to make it all sound scary.
Yes.
And then it turned out it was only a few people that were actually regularly around the airports. And if they'd done what they do in the UK, which is the moment you were doing it, they go and they turn up at your door. And if if you've been too naughty, you're then going to end up in court. that one person's immediately taken out the figures. So what they were doing was they were allowing one person to rack up hundreds of statistics of crimes, and they could have stopped that at the start, but they obviously didn't want to, because they wanted bad stats at the end, and that does bother me, because to me as well, you're being negligent, because if you're saying, well, drones are a problem around airport, and you say, but we sat there and we watched this one guy do this for 3 months, I'm like, well, wait a minute, you know, you're culpable to a degree there, and you're irresponsible, you know.
It's like those people who complain that there's a drone spying on me while I'm laying outside naked by my swimming pool. Well, put some clothes on.
But ensure they're personally aware of applicable airspace restrictions. So it's making sure that safety notice is making sure that it's your fault if you go in there. And I suppose it's also, you got to remember, people don't realise that they're considered airspace users in the same manner as a glider, balloon, and light aircraft.
But are the CAA doing enough to get that message out? There wasn't one of the justifications for registration. Weren't we supposed to be told that registration will enable the CAA to know all the drone owners and keep them informed and communicated and updated? Are they doing that, or did they lie about that?
Well, that's exactly it. That email should have dropped. I'm going to check my Gmail just to make sure that I didn't receive that safety notice as a notification from them. I'm pretty sure I didn't. But yeah, you'd think that very act of taking that test and putting all your details in would mean that you would get. No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
We're only supposed to do two benefits: find my drone and be regularly updated from the CAA with important information. Those were the benefits, but
yeah, and it's not. Yeah, no, you did. The trust certificates mentioned by Recovery Drone, and that's the one in America, which that Best Buy buyer didn't have. And Patrick was always for, and DJI were dead against the idea of registration and training at point of sale.
These rogue drone operators could probably be categorized as clueless, careless, or criminal, couldn't they?
Yeah, they probably.
That's what they said in 2015.
It is. Cool, you're good at remembering the years when all this nonsense comes out. I see the chat's face, but I couldn't remember the year. Yeah.
I was going to say that was Andy Sage. I can remember that.
That's it. That was it. See, between you can come out.
Yeah, but that phrase was also used in that congressional or that roundtable thing in the USA that was trotted out. You know, like, oh, this will impress them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's no doubt there's been no end of fairy tales invented to sell products left, right, and centre. It's just point of sale would have been a good place to at least get the education piece out there. Technically, here you're supposed to do all sorts of things when you buy model aircraft or drones, and it's all supposed to be in the box. And of course, none of it's in the box. Nobody.
When you buy a TV set in the UK, do you have to fill out the TV license form then, or do they come and knock down your door later?
Well, here you have to have your TV license physically with you when you go to buy a TV.
I think when you actually buy it now, the retailers have to give you your address. So the moment you bought one, it gets pinged off to them. I think that's how it works now.
And then here's Jason saying close to a small airfield, let's put it up. Yeah, they are. They're inaccurate, and it's no good. Poor information it's worse than no information at all. Really, it really is. But it's training. It's training. Go on, Bruce.
What kind of surprises me with this is that no one that's doing the data has thought about open sourcing it a bit. You could actually have a system whereby, you know, if you think about it a little bit, like, I don't want to use it as an example actually because it's one of the worst examples, but I'm going to say it just because people know the name. But it's obviously, you know, like Wikipedia, members of the public can put stuff on there. But you do it, but you know, you do a trust system a bit like with Twitter with the community notes, maybe, where if you had inaccuracies, you could actually correct the data, submit that, and maybe other peers, other drone users get pinged in the locality and say, is this correct? You put yes, and then it gets approved. It kind of strikes me if there's a feeling that this is difficult to achieve, which I'm not convinced it is that difficult. Well, let's say argument's sake it is. Then the way to do it is to have an open source ability to say, I'm going to correct this for you. submit the data, and it gets approved, and then everyone wins.
If only we had a system where all the drones could be connected, say, via the internet to a central system, and you couldn't take off without actually getting permission. So then people couldn't fly in the wrong places. Because I might put this forward to the FAA; they may be interested in that. Gary, have you contacted the FAA to get someone from them on the stream? That would be great, wouldn't it?
I have.
What did they say?
They said you must go through the press office, and then they'll consider it, etc., etc., etc.
We'll do that. Go through the press office. Put your best dress on and go through the press office.
It's funny you should say, why isn't the data there in an open source form? There it is. It's called the Open AIP. So it does exist. So I don't know whether you could pull the data from this, and I don't know whether it would be considered. Are you looking at it there? Yeah, you are. So let's go to that other side of the world, to that dodgy person over here. Let's see if it looks accurate. But of course, it doesn't come in. You're on this one, aren't you, Brucey boy?
Well,
you're on the top one.
Further up
you're
country.
On the top one.
Go a bit north. There you go. See that? Well, no, see that lake in the middle, just north of there. Where that
TO, got to be TO. There it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is kind of there. But you've got no sort of control zone around your airfield there, then.
No, it's Class G.
Class G, and then you've got the So look, it's here there. So you can't go above 4,500 feet there, because then you'll be in the CTA.
You mean I'm not allowed to?
You're not allowed. Well, yeah. Oh, whatever. So yeah, I mean, there is open airspace information out there that I know people check. So I would be happy if just this sort of thing was pulled. Let's go somewhere busy.
But most countries have like these before you fly apps you can use. There's one here in New Zealand, I think, and whatever. But it's just not standard practice for people to use those. Most of the people that use drones a lot use them, but people who are just casual, just been down to Best Buy, they don't even know those apps exist.
Yeah. And it is very as I've said before. So yeah, there is. I don't know how I wonder if there's an API to pull this. This is the sort of thing you'd be able to do, Ian, not me. Maybe there is, but that's openaip.net. Openaip.net. Yeah, there we go. What was I going to say? I can't remember. I was thinking about the apps. The primary source for the FX nodes, OpenAIP. I should have put it in the chat. Let's put it in the chat as well. What was I going to say? I can't remember.
You're going to tell us about your dementia, Gary.
Exactly. Think about apps. Let's think about apps. Yeah, it's to my mind, it is all the training piece, and perhaps the thing should be all right. Maybe I'm going to change my mind on things being locked down. Perhaps they should be locked down until you've been proved that you've done further training. Maybe,
but again, I still go back to this thing. I look at Canada, sub 250. None of this matters. Just don't endanger people, don't endanger property. It's a little plastic drone. If it fell on your head, it might part your hair. It's unlikely to draw blood. And if it bangs into an airplane, well, then it'd probably shatter into a million pieces. Why are we overreacting to this tiny, tiny threat? Because we've had these big drones flying around for how long, and nobody's died, and no aircraft have come down. And now that it's getting safer and safer, why are we making more and more regulation? It seems that we've established the intrinsic risk is very low. So as we lower that intrinsic risk further, why are we increasing the level of regulation? Where's the risk assessment? Where's the balance? There's no balance. And I can understand why people just buy them in a box and fly them, because it's, the rules are stupid.
I mean, part of it is the complexity of it. I mean, that'll probably, some people won't look, because I think I just can't get my head around this. I find it really quite intimidating, because that part of the problem is that there isn't this clear, certainly not in the UK, and I don't think there will be in the US, but there isn't a clear English around a lot of it either. We know when you go into the real detail of it, it's written in legalese and it's not straightforward. And it's daft even with the commercial community. They're getting you to do ops manuals all the time to simply be acting as your own self-appointed legal advisor to read the legislation. And to me, it's always been a little bit nutty that you should have plain English. As well, drivers wouldn't adhere to the law, and obviously there's some that don't anyway. But you'd have a lot less adherence to the law if your regulations, you I'm trying to think what you call it now, where the
Everywhere
highway
so
code.
legalese and obfuscated.
Yeah, if you had your highway code that was written, to go and read acts to figure out how you to drive your car, and your speed limits and so on. But you nobody been here until now, because you're like, what's going on? Everything is simplified and made clear, so you haven't really got an excuse.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what's missing in the whole piece. Is as good as well, let's put it up. As good as Richard's map is, especially in London, it's overly complicated, isn't it? For the layperson to,
you've got to turn off quite a few bits often to understand what you're really looking at.
The reality is also, the more complex you make these regulations, the less likely you are to get compliance, because people don't understand that, they don't remember them all. And take, for example, footballs. You can buy a football. How many windows have been broken by footballs in the UK? How many people have suffered head injuries as a result of footballs in the UK? But there's no manual, there's no regulation, there's no active parliament controlling footballs. You just accept that stuff's going to get broken, people are going to get bruised heads because kids kick footballs around. I mean, why have we taken this dramatically overbearing stance with 250 grams of plastic?
Oh, look, 3 stars. UKM ready. London helicopter. Is that on the screen? I can't see what I'm looking at. Yeah, I am. But it is. I mean, that's pretty complex, really. And you flight report. I see someone's flying there. Drone flying Wednesday, October 9. Ding, 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 ding. Recreational. Wow. And somebody is. Well, that person's got to look out for this.
I don't think that should be allowed.
This. Watch which one is that? Which service in 99,000 feet. So which is that one? That's for helicopters. So that must be a prison, that one, I'm guessing. No, it's Canary Wharf. See, it's already EGR 160. So
Canary Wharf, that's the prison where they put all the financiers, isn't it? And the bankers.
Yeah, that's Canary Wharf, exactly. So that's instantly making me think, I better go off and see it. Oh, that's a controlled airspace for London City. Okay, and the approach. But yeah, I mean, and then what's that one? That's a specified area for minimum performance, I think. Yeah, so it's complicated, isn't it? We can see that, and no wonder people get confused. So maybe we need to have a conversation about what's that there? See, I'll get interest in this flight report. So that's obviously, look, some linear infrastructure inspection is going to be happening there.
So what we need is a flight app that just has a yay or nay light. Yay, nay. So you get your phone out. It says yay or nay. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. That's probably fair comment. That is probably absolutely fair comment. This is all a little bit mind-boggling, although that looks fairly empty, doesn't it, at a distance? Again, let's go to that. Let's use that example we always use of the lawless country on the right-hand side of the map. Let's see what it throws up for here. Compare and contrast. Well, it takes a while.
Nothing's.
Here we go. So here, an area of increased risk should say Bruce, shouldn't it? Really?
Yeah.
That's what it should say. Oh, it's a hospital. That seems fair enough.
It's full of sick people. It's really risky to fly around hospitals.
You
can catch something.
Exactly. Yeah. Instrument sector. What's that? Guitars, or is it a big band? What instruments they play in there? Yeah. So it's a little bit easier over by you, but yeah, the point I was trying to make was that it's it's complex to understand this stuff. And Jason's not wrong. Actually, you're not wrong, Jason. 9 out of 10 flies. Yeah.
And should I note, you really need to know how to read sectional charts to fly their 250-gram foam model in the school grounds.
Yeah. It's nice to have, isn't it, really? I know people, in fact, I think Ian, told me off on Facebook for for people not being able to read Met reports. I think you should be able to read them at a certain level because
a
you get better.
lot of this is just daftness, and when I look at training, it was none of the stuff that was important. I should know about GPS multipathing and canyons and stuff like that of where you're flying, because that's where you end up with problems. Probably a little less so these days as drones are a little bit smarter, but it was more about everyday practical use, what that should be about, what you should be avoiding. So while some of the weather stuff's good, you need to understand if it's going to rain. You don't want to be flying about with that. I don't want to fly through fog, but at the same time, I don't need to be remembering what the flat clouds are called up at 10,000 meters. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I wish everything was in the context of the way you're going to be flying it and where you should be flying it under 400 feet and the issues you'll encounter every day.
Yes.
And that's to me is the missing bit. It's just, again, it's can't we just have common sense around it all? And
would you guys have a practical element to your certification process?
Yeah, you have if you do it commercially, you used to have a flight test. I think it'll depend on which qualification you're going for now. But the frustrating thing there again is when you try and get renew stuff, I always concern that once you know what you're doing, you shouldn't be having to keep paying for training again and again. And if you got done for a flight test again, that even again would just be completely nuts. If you've been flying for 10, 20 years already.
Yeah, but you're a pilot. They have to do BFRs.
Yeah. But the annoying thing I think also is the changing of wording at the CAA in their paperwork means you've got to change the wording in your ops manual. It's a own of a lot of extra work because they changed the word. I think they should think a little bit longer before they change the word and make sure it's really necessary because recently we've had several new names for drones. And those come through, and then people's ops manuals are thrown out because they haven't changed the word. It's
utterly balmy. It's proper jobs worth of the highest degree, and that does hurt people, and quite rightly. And it annoys me that isn't even considered. That there isn't someone jumping up and down at CNA and saying, "Wait a minute, we're being dicks with this. We're causing people problems, and we don't need to be doing it." I just think of so many people if you were dealing in the private sector, you think of the people as your customers, and you wouldn't be doing that. You'd be treating them, with a serious degree of respect, and that genuinely is missing.
You want compliance again, don't you? It's just like the airspace. You want compliance, which is none of us want an unsafe sky. Everyone wants all users to know about the airspace around them. But if you keep wrapping it in crazy words and complexity, you're not going to get compliance. And the same with the ops manual. It should be plain English. I think they keep failing those. What is that thing you have in England where you can go to an authority that tells you whether your document's in plain English?
There's a plain English thing. I forget what it's called, but someone's mentioned on this show before that it should conform to that, and it should. There's no reason for it not to, and until we're at that point, we're just going to have this level of silliness around it all. And then it frustrates me as well that we know when you want to pick on someone, you want to prosecute them, all you have to say is you're not following your ops manual, and then say, oh, we shouldn't be getting it written by someone. And the reason people are getting it written and edited by someone is because you're changing all the terminology all the time. You're making it so complex. And people are scared about putting them in because thinking, well, I'm going to get picked up on this and that, and then you're going to be trying to charge me again for it. And it's that thing it's just inherently.
Paul Cat's got grown-up words. He's got the grown-up words to go for it. Information saturation. Yeah,
yes,
that's all the grown-up words there. Yeah.
But even here in New Zealand, writing those manuals has become an industry. You pay someone to write your ops manual. You may not even have read it yourself, but you just submit it and it gets approved, and suddenly you're safe to do things that you can't do if you don't pay someone a lot of money to write a manual. I don't understand.
Well, again, I'm going to pull out the story yet again. When we wrote our balloon safety charts in Kenya, we pulled for our Japanese instructions. We out the instructions from a VCR recorder that were in Japanese and pasted them and just put them on the page and told the CIA that's our Japanese safety instructions. It was, I suppose, it was for a VCR, but it's a nonsense, isn't it? It's an absolute nonsense. So there needs to be a separation of roads, path drones. Not sure.
Yeah, I'm with Jason.
What do you mean by that, Jason?
Don't integrate, segregate. When you're talking about drones and manned aircraft, don't integrate, segregate.
Whole countries get into trouble for that. Well, why? I wonder why. Well, and then how are going to people comply with that anyway, or will they?
Well, you just DJI could limit the height of their drones to 100. Are they doing that? Vertical stratification is the obvious way, with areas which are equivalent of pedestrian crossings, where manned aircraft can come down to ground level, or other aircraft normally operate.
Wait and press the button and everything.
They just circle until they come down and land.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the way it works. You have driveways across footpaths where you have manned aircraft crossing through that boundary layer of 0 to 400 feet that unmanned aircraft use. But that's the whole regulatory thing.
You mean the bit they want to throw us out of? That's the bit.
They're fixated on integrating. But what they're saying is, we need the 0 to 400 foot airspace. Well, are you going to bring manned aircraft in there? Are you? Is that what's going to happen? So who are you integrating with? If you unless you're going to plan to have drones flying higher than that, in which case you don't need our 0 to 400, do you? This doesn't gel. There's no, it makes no sense. All the stuff that's being rolled out, I just don't understand why they're not using logic and common sense to work things out.
What would you like to be in the DJI section, Rev? I think you have missed it because there hasn't been one, and I don't know that.
Well, there was the DJI. Yeah. If he's talking about the height update, which we mentioned earlier, so we could just rewind back and watch that.
And also DJI's geofencing and how stupid it is, how illegal it is. Well, not illegal, but how non-compliant it is with the actual regulations.
It's always going to be a bad idea to let a manufacturer put up restrictions of their own making or their own avarice. Really, it's not. It's always been a poor idea. And
imagine if you bought a car and it only let you drive on certain roads when it decided it was safe to do so. No one would buy a car like that. So why don't we bother buying drones like that?
Well, there's a few people buying Teslas.
Yeah, there's a few things that'll do that, aren't there? Your fridge, geofenced fridges, that would be a bad idea, wouldn't it? Or
well, they've got geofenced scooters. You can't take the scooter outside a certain area, the rental scooters. And I gather geofenced trolleys too, shopping trolleys. You can't wheel them home. The wheels lock when you leave the car park. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
On that note, I see someone suing one of the supermarkets in the UK because the wheels locked on her trolley and she fell over and hurt her back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that seems to me. And so that must have happened more than once. There must be.
You'd think so.
Yeah. I wonder how many injuries have been caused by shopping trolleys. I wonder if that Rossborough lot will tell us that. I bet I'm
forever being told off in the supermarket because I like to run and then hold myself up on the bar and then scoot down. And if you put your feet on the back wheels, you can steer it. So I go zooming down and the women go, stop that. And all the supermarket staff come home and tell me off. 70-year-old man shouldn't be doing that. But it's so much fun.
Funny enough, I do that as well.
I was going to say, I've got visions of Last of the Summer Wine in my head now.
Yes, absolutely.
That comment has been made many times, actually. A cross between Last of the Summer Wine and Top Gear. That's the sort of videos I make.
Quite so. Yeah, no, I also, with my children, I've got the children in the trolley, and I get an ear bending from the wife because danger may ensue. But, we like to live on the edge as we do our shopping because what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? So what else have we seen? Go on, mate. I
was just going to just jump in this point and say I feel a lot more mature now about the fact that I've been, running around at super fast speeds with the wheelbarrow. As soon as I get it, instead of just walking down the path, I'm like, how fast can I get this?
You see, it's all out there.
You like me, you can't walk upstairs. I have to run upstairs. I can't walk upstairs. For some reason, I just can't walk. I have to run because it's something I do with stairs. People look at me strange.
Yeah, and Jim, I said it's mainly an FPV flyer. It's pleasant right to fly low. Yeah, I sort of my FPV flying is exactly like that. It's just on a glider, and when I hardly ever do any, but it's just on the glider and just pootling around and just looking at the view. This is not the high speed racing or whatever stuff, but it did strike me the other week when I was doing it. My word, this is a lot cheaper and easier than going and renting an aircraft. Very similar experience in some ways. Mine safer, cheaper, safer, all those good things, and it really is an entry level into real flying, I think, now for youngsters. Did we see the virtual championship? Go on.
But that reminds me, you see the USA that everyone's bitching about not enough pilots and not enough air traffic controllers, and there's shortages of. I wonder if that's related to the fact that the hobby is being completely pushed out of existence, and they're already starting to feel the pinch that people who might have been flying RC models and so forth are no longer doing that. They're doing something else, so they're not moving into aviation. I wonder if they're starting to reap what that crop they've sown.
I thought it would have been a bit too early for that, but I wouldn't be surprised that eventually turns to that. It certainly
they say it's because a lot of pilots are retiring, but I mean, there's no new blood coming in from the bottom, is there? And I mean, it's been 2015 when things started changing, so that's 8 years. 8 years since things started changing.
I suppose it could already be rearing its ugly head. Where are we at with Freas? Where's that happening?
Well, they're still dishing them out slowly, but I think the pressure's off the FAA because they've postponed the enforcement of remote ID. So they got more breathing time, but they're still vehemently saying no private land, no backyard freers, no, and which is crazy because the whole country should be a freer by default, and you have RID mandatory areas like you do with radios on aircraft, broadcast mandatory areas, ADSB mandatory areas. Should be the same with remote ID. There's no reason why someone who lives way out in the boonies should have to have remote ID on the drone when the range of the remote ID signal won't even reach the boundaries of their property. But they would be technically in breach if they didn't have it.
The question was up there a moment ago. That'll be the lad in New York with the Acro heli that we've mentioned before about the death, I imagine. Funnily enough, on that point, because we know that was apparently, it looked to have been misused as being a drone death. I did do freedom of information to the CAA to define the difference between a model aircraft and a drone. So it's now up there in writing. So especially if any journalist ever tries to pin a model aircraft as being a drone, you can sort of link them to that and cite it and say, wait a minute, no, this is the definition of a drone.
Yeah, that's the thing that the regulators obviously have no clue on because they can't or choose not to tell the difference. And even back in 2015 at that congressional hearing, the Commercial Drone Alliance admitted that the hobby hasn't changed. The traditional hobby of flying radio control model aircraft hasn't changed, but we need to regulate it. And I'm thinking, whoa, and they've admitted that. So it's not about drones and capabilities. It's just that they need to regulate everything. And the fact that regulators can't see the difference between a kid in a school ground with a 250-gram RC model of a Piper Cub and someone who goes out and buys a computer-controlled, GPS-guided drone with a high-resolution camera, totally different applications, totally different risk profiles, but they're not drawing any distinction because it's not about safety. It's about just getting everything out of that airspace.
It's coming to a head slowly, isn't it? The urban air mobility people that's the other thing that's really starting to happen this week. All the talking heads, I'm noticing it more. Perhaps it's been happening for a while, but the talking heads on LinkedIn are all, it might be a good idea if we, but perhaps we're going to start with cargo first, and maybe we'll, perhaps that would be a good thing to do. And they're changing their aspirations. I see one of them today said, we'll probably be flying in 2025. And that was one of the ones that said they were going to be flying in 2020. I suppose given the COVID year. But it's that whole thing's changing. And they were responsible for a lot of the noise for the airspace grab in the beginning. Them along with Amazon. Amazon really started the ball rolling with their map, which would have offered segregation, but they wanted up to 600 feet. But that's left a lingering aftertaste in regulators, and they will have by now, just about everywhere in the world all the chairs will have been rearranged at every regulator that were at those meetings with Amazon when they were doing that. It's a completely different lot of people. If we wait long enough, now's the time to interject, I suppose, newer ideas, more reasonable ideas into the thought chain. But I don't know whether that's gone. But
well, the common sense and reality checks will do that when we're still a generation of battery technology away from this being remotely commercially viable. And a lot of people will have put money into these ventures expecting a return within a given time frame. When that return doesn't occur, then they won't be putting more money in, and they'll be looking at, should we just write off this investment, or what do we do?
Yeah. I still don't understand venture capital. I really don't. I just don't understand.
It's like, you know, that game where you have the little cups and a little peanut, and you move the cups around.
Yeah.
Which cup is it? That's what it is. It's just like that.
I see. And you just play that enough times, and always follow the peanut, and then you're okay.
Yeah.
So
you always win. The venture capitalists always win.
Yes, well, they referred to a cap, so I pasted in the text and just got them to confirm, because you're not going to get a journalist reading through a document to find it. So this is
so you made sure that this went in as a response to this FOIA. Yes, so you'll point the journalists at this, like you've done me now. Okay. Any unmanned aircraft being flying definition above for sporting and recreational purposes. There's been quite a few. The last one I can think of in the UK death was a lady who was walking a dog on the Long Mynd, which is a place that's got a gliding club, full-size gliding club on top of it, and she was hit by a model glider on the ridge, and that did for her. And then there's the chap in America that got chopped up, wasn't there, by helicopter. And if we sat long enough, we could probably actually
I think over the history of the hobby, there's probably been 7 or 8 deaths that I've heard of over the many years. And that's safer. It's still safer than just about anything else. And the irony is that none of those deaths have been as a result of the recreational use of a multi-rotor. So that people say, oh, these drones are too dangerous. Well, no, actually, they've worked out to be safer than the traditional hobby. So if all the regulators have always said we're happy with the hobby, the hobby's responsible, well, you've got a safer branch of model aviation now, but you're using that as a justification to regulate everything. Again, the dots don't connect like that.
Back in, let's share this one. Back in 2012, now I'm remembering. Oh no. Oh, I nearly got rid of us in my very professional style. Back in, I think it was 2012, there was that one, the Sheeble that was GPS spoofed and taken through the control cabin in, where was it, South Korea, and that killed him. That didn't do too well.
Hardly recreational, though, is it? Really?
No, not recreational. No, it wasn't. Do they?
Death by 1,000 cuts,
Jason. Yeah, Jason. You and your logic. Yes, they will, Jason.
Yes, but the interesting thing in America is that they said this risk, this danger is going to be here until we introduce remote ID. It's an unacceptable risk and level of danger. Yet we only introduced remote ID last year, and there was none of the risk that they proposed, none of the bad things they said were going to happen happened. So they lied, or they were incompetent.
Geeks Varnus Sean says he's got an exclusive from the DroneX show about how the rollout's going to look in the UK. And the last I heard from the Ouija board was that they're considering network ID from the go, which that'll be a shocker if that is the case. But I know that was being kicked around the tables in the CAA in the UK. So if it's network remote ID, then that is, we will stop you flying if you're not in the right place, and perhaps we will charge you for your flights.
It's all about money. It's this whole thing. It's about getting Vodafone, BT, and it's SIM card. They want SIM cards to be part of
Vodacom. BT has a drone SIM card already. It's all ready to go.
Yeah, and
it depends if they apply it to the hobby or if it's just to commercial or if it's just to multi-rotors or fixed wing models. That's going to be the deciding point. Which communities are going to be affected.
Yeah, I mean, there's separate arguments for these. If you talk about beyond visual line of sight, I can understand, different rules, strict ones, hoops to jump through. But what concerns me is when you roll these things out, it always ends up the visual line of sight, because they're the bulk of them being picked on, because it's like, well, you can foot the bill for us.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where the issue comes down, because the industry, as I always point out, it doesn't make people a great deal of money. In fact, it's a shame Mark's not on this week, because he's been posting a few job adverts, although I have reposted some of them, and the wages are scandalous. There's a counter drone system operator. Involves him, I think, having to have a GVC or going for like a GVC qualification, all that lot, understanding about drones, overseeing pings that come in from like national infrastructure from counter drone. 25k, that is call center pay essentially. That it's been offered. So that's kind of,
is it
sort of call center team manager kind of pay. You break it up a bit.
But that's kind of sort of what it is, isn't it? There's this current north and right of me, and to the right, to the left of Bruce. But that's happening in the country that's got AI detection systems, Iron Dome, CUS systems, and this and that and the other. And they're saying, but there was no one looking at glass. There was no humans in the loop. For a powered paraglider to get through, I mean, whether that's just maybe that's just hype. Maybe that isn't real. Maybe that isn't really what happened. But for that to get through, so what I'm trying to say is this reliance on all these systems with nobody actually looking at glass or thinking about it might have been proved how poor it is instantly. So it is not much of a job. What am I trying to say? We again pull up a sandbag, another balloon story in London, wanted to put in a tethered balloon that's one on a big cable like this, 30 people at a time on the tether, winch them up, winch them down, winch them up, winch them down. My boss and I, we found a fantastic site next to Tower Bridge, which already operated manned balloons out of, and they're £1 million the thing cost, and we just had a niggling doubt. We didn't know what the niggling doubt was. And a competitor had one outside Lords, and they confirmed what our niggling doubt was. Overnight, they just let some very, very low paid Australians look after the thing, their one. And they started mucking about with it because it was the middle of the night and they were bored. And they had jacks on the side of it to pull the envelope down into a storm thing. And they're going, jack it up, jack it down, jack it up, jack it down. And it jolted the thing and it flew out of its net. And this thing went up through the approach to Heathrow. And it's got a big spreader bar on the top, big circle. It's quite heavy. Went straight up through thousands of feet until it burst. And then it went down, it flattened a van next to a railway line. So the moral of the story is if you've got a thing that needs guarding or doing for 24 hours a day, you want to be paying the lowest amount of money possible until you don't need to be paying the lowest amount of money possible to look after the thing. And that applies to this is a long story, isn't it? It applies to all that counter UAS stuff and all that. You can have all this stuff, but if you're paying someone peanuts to be looking at it, it becomes much less effective. Ranting,
so what are you saying about Australians?
Yeah, exactly. And I know you're one. Well, it could have been. I could have said Australians. Could have been.
Might have been me.
It could have been a youth from any. It could have been easily. It would have been me. I definitely would have done that. But it's. Go on, Ian. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, it was just continuing on with this. It's just seeing how the world moves with technology. I mean, we know already from discussions we've had when we spoke about jammers at Dublin Airport that already there's bits in RGPilot and stuff where you can set up so that you can cope for a time without GPS anyway. So the jamming solutions have, you know, they can be counted to a degree, and I'm sure there'll be some thought behind it, very much so. But to underline that, I saw in the last week a company that were specifically demoing the GNS
Jam resistant.
Yeah, jam resistant drone. So you know the technology then, and people are already monetizing your counter UAS drone. So there you go.
counter UAS.
In that incident in southern England, a particular company that should have been doing awfully well and who was not at Gatwick in any way, and I won't say much about Gatwick, but they weren't at Gatwick at all. They weren't even in the country, but they own the media for defending the thing. Should have been all over the recent events that are happening to the north of me because it's their country, and so rather, if anything, this latest incident will be disproving counter UAS on an hourly basis. Yeah, we've all known it's rubbish, mostly rubbish, but I think it's being proved now. Gosh,
I think the Israelis' counter drone system is best. What's it called? Iron Dome? Yeah.
You bastard. There I was, doing my best to dance around. Oh, that's a shutdown. And the monetization. I mean, I'll probably only earn now maybe 10 cents instead of 25 for this one.
That Ferrari just gets further out into the future, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool cats. I used to do security work in a tester boredom. Yeah, when I was in the Air Force, and we had to do gate guards and all that sort of thing, all the stupid things we used to do when that happened. But I do think Australians I think we can say Australians are dangerous. I think Bruce is one.
Absolutely.
So that in itself that rather proves it, doesn't
Forget about the poisonous snakes and the crocodiles, mate. Yeah, that's the people.
Exactly. So, look, hour and 6. What else can we think to not really talk about this week?
I can't think of anything.
We've talked about it.
Covered it all.
Covered it all for this week. Delivery drones still expanding. Counter UAS still doesn't work, and aviation information is not promulgated in a word that's not like promulgated, difficult to understand. Right.
One thing I'm hoping to hear, I'm hoping it won't be too long, but I'm still waiting, is be interested to see where this Ipso thing goes with the press report about the, it's inevitable drones going to be down because of the Emirates one where there was no evidence of it being a drone. So that's still ongoing, but it'd be interesting to see the end result of that, because it'll be a huge injustice if for once things aren't found in our favour.
I have forgotten all about that Emirates thing, to be honest. I need to follow that up and see what the end report was. It must have been Hangar, surely. Let's have a look right now. Emirates drone.
It will be interesting when the final result comes out for that, for a lot of told you so's.
Where did that happen? Was it Turkey? I can't remember.
You're talking about the
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, live now. A huge fire at Luton Airport.
Drone must have done that. It'll be a drone crash. Yeah.
That's interesting.
All the Luton miners will be gutted.
The Luton miners. There's some ex-Jet bloke had a video about it.
No, I don't believe that.
Yeah, no, I've not seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Where is the fire? Is it at the airport or at the tower? Or
it looks pretty big actually. It's one that looks like the terminal building.
You should rush down there with your drone and get some footage, man.
I just come up because flights are being diverted to Dublin Airport.
There'll be drones there too.
I'm looking at it now.
Oh, good.
Car fire in Terminal 2.
Be one of those EVs, eh?
Yeah. Oh, it could well be, and then that's probably spread out, hasn't it?
Yeah. So there we go. Look forward to your flying cars with their electric batteries. And
Why
their
don't
zero
we
mode-
just instantly disseminate misinformation, Bruce?
Yeah, we
Oh
should,
yes, that's
yeah.
right. Oh, that's right. That's
To be
that is
honest,
what was.
if we did put out there, drone had started it, you can guarantee within 30 minutes.
The Daily Mail
Well,
will be
I
all
dare you
over
to
it.
tweet drone hits EV in Luton car park. I dare you to do it.
I must admit, it's a shame it happened so fast. There was a few weeks ago, there was the terrorist escape from a prison. I really wanted to spoof one of the major newspapers by saying it was flown out by a large drone, because I just thought they would definitely buy it. I could think Photoshop it, you know.
Or just use AI to produce the footage.
Yes.
Are they really diverting people to Dublin? What a terrible place. Even if you went to Aberdeen, at least you could get on a train and come back if you had to. But what a terrible place to disclaimer. Yeah, that's right. You just put an exclamation mark or question mark. Exactly, FX node. They can't be diverting aircraft to Dublin. Oh, that'll be not EasyJet. Well, Ryanair, I suppose. Do they go into Luton?
Well, at least they'll be able to get their takeaways delivered by drone when they get to Ireland.
When they get there,
probably. But then the aircraft would be at their maintenance bases and stuff, and be easier to knock about and sort out and all the fuss. Oh, dear me.
With this, though, it does. If it is an EV, it does bring up concerns, because there was the really bad bus accident.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't realize it was an EV at first. They said, "Oh, it hit some gas." It turns out, no, it was the battery on the impact. And it looks like that would have added to the casualties there, that we haven't. Whilst we're going on to the EV thing, not enough yet is being thought about the safety. Because I know we've had this talk with Philip Rouse, saying there needs to be disengagement. When a vehicle crashes, that the battery will separate. Where at the moment you're held in the vehicle if it crashes, and then you've got a battery burning underneath you. It's a pretty scary situation.
Yeah, but it's all about performance. They don't want to add the extra weight of having detachable batteries and things. It's a structural member in many cases. You can't have it coming apart. And it's down to making the cheapest possible vehicle with the maximum profit and the best performance.
Everyone's saying it is a car fire because, well, they're saying it because it's in the car park. But, of course, all the other cars have gone up as well.
Yes, that's it. You say you can't tell, can you? But
video where it didn't happen.
Hang on. Funny you should say that. Present.
Would the driver of the formerly white Tesla in the car park please move the flaming wreck to the side?
Imagine you've parked your car.
It must be a car. You can hear the horn going off.
Just imagine.
That's terrible.
Just imagine you've parked your car up there. You've gone on holiday. You come back.
You get a text. Your car's overheated.
Yes, that's right. Your Tesla warns you. Tesla tells you all sorts of things. Yes, live updates while you're at.
Conditioning the battery for fire.
I'm on fire. Yeah, that's right.
There'll be no charge for this fire.
I thought you'd like to know. I don't want this to affect your holiday in any way, but oh my word. Oh, what a world we live in. Well, that was good breaking news to finish on. We'll follow that up next week. Cutting edge, absolutely. All right, dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. Have a lovely week. We'll see you again next week, 2100 GMT, when maybe some news has happened. Cheers for now. Bye-bye. There's one, and there.